It's official, the Boston Red Sox have been mathematically eliminated. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and things simply did not go well for the Red Sox in Texas this last series. They lost 2 out of 3 games to the Texas Rangers in Arlington. That officially puts their season record at 75-78 on the year. That officially puts them 20.5 games out of first place in this division, 10 games out of third place in this division, and obviously the most important part of this conversation, it unofficially kind of eliminates the Boston Red Sox from postseason contention. But the big question here is what's next, right? What's next for the Red Sox? What should they be focusing on now that they have been officially eliminated? And what does this mean for the rest of the year, and what should we expect there? Well, that's what we're going over in today's video. We're going to be talking about what are the next steps for the Boston Red Sox. We're going to be talking about what to expect from these final games of the 2023 season, and we're going to be talking about what the Red Sox should be looking for going into the 2024 offseason. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so instead of actually going player by player and recapping this series, because again, it wasn't a pretty series either way for the Red Sox, let's talk about sort of the bigger picture here and what a postseason elimination means. On sort of a smaller, broad scale here, it probably means we're going to be seeing a lot more guys play every day that normally don't get a ton of playing time. One of those guys being Bobby Dalbec, right, who was actually, in my opinion, the series MVP offensively for the Boston Red Sox in this series. He went 5 for 11, he had 2 doubles, a home run, and he scored 4 runs in this series against Texas. Good for Bob, right? The dude deserves some playing time after what he's been doing in Worcester this year. I think hopefully the Red Sox are able to either move him this offseason or allow him the opportunity for a team to take a flyer on him going into 2024, because I think it could be a productive big leaguer, but that's besides the point, right? You're probably going to see a lot more guys like Bobby Dalbec, Luis Urias, guys like that get into this everyday lineup, get some playing opportunity, and sort of see what you have there a little bit. The other thing we're probably going to see on a day-to-day basis is a lot more youth, right? We've sort of been avoiding the topic of why Ceddanne Rafaela hasn't been playing every day, and I think it's because Alex Cora was still treating this like they were kind of in the playoff race, right? And that's just sort of the manager's job. Imagine if Alex Cora came out a month ago and was like, yeah, Ceddanne's here because the Red Sox are giving up. They're not going to try and push for the playoffs, even though it's really, really unlikely. That's not what the manager's supposed to do, right? He's supposed to manage to win no matter what. But now that they're officially postseason eliminated, I think we're going to see a lot more Ceddanne. We're going to see a lot more of Wilyer Abreu, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some other guys make their way up at some point, maybe an IL stint for some of these guys on the current team. Those are the 2 bigger things, in my opinion, to expect from the Red Sox going forward for the last, 9-10 games of the 2023 season. On a broader scale here, the Red Sox next steps in terms of the offense is figuring out what to do with some of your free agents, right? You've got Justin Turner, who I think is by far and away the biggest question mark going into the 2024 offseason for the Red Sox, at least offensively, right? You've got 3 options with Justin Turner. You either are going to try and get a contract in the books before he hits free agency, try and pick up that player option, make it more lucrative and not allow him to get to free agency, or you're going to allow him to go to free agency and hope that he picks up his player option, or you're not going to bother with either of those at all, and you're going to try and move on and replace his production and his status in the clubhouse somewhere else. There are also other guys, too, that the Red Sox should be looking at in terms of what to do with during free agency, right? One of them, Adam Duvall. I think another one, Alex Verdugo. I think Alex Verdugo isn't technically a free agent this offseason, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's a lot of talk in the front office about what Alex Verdugo's future on the Red Sox looks like. He only has 1 more year of arbitration. It feels like he's kind of the odd man out in the outfield. Not really, but kind of a little bit, right? That could be a possibility here, and that's something that they could try and figure out over this next month before the free agency / trading market opens up. And you've got guys like Luis Urias, who's a little bit smaller of a piece. He didn't really do a whole lot since coming to the Red Sox. Does he have a place on the 2024 team? Does he have a place on the bench? Is there somewhere to fit him in, or do you need to improve that position? So in my opinion, when we're looking at the broader spectrum of the offense, there are a lot lot of question marks for free agents. But overall, right, offensively, they should remain about the same. And that makes sense because over this year, yes, they've had their ups and downs, but they have been a legitimate big league offense for this entire year. A top 10 offense in Major League Baseball, top 5 in some categories still to this day. I think the big thing for the Red Sox going into the 2024 offseason offensively is not to change things up too much, but bring a little bit more consistency, right? I think what we saw this year was a lot of different lineups with a lot of different guys in it, and part of that is a good thing, right? You want a flexible lineup. You want a lineup that you are able to mix and match and still be successful with, but part of that too is I think that inconsistency with the lineup and guys on the field led to a lot of inconsistent times with this Red Sox offense. There were times where they were fantastic. There were times where they weren't fantastic and they were really, really bad, right? So going into 2024, I think it's about bringing consistency to the Boston Red Sox, specifically offensively as well. And I think a lot of that's going to have to come by figuring out who's going to be your everyday player at each position, right? There were a lot of times this year where we didn't really have an everyday player at one position. I think it's time to come into a season where you have a set 8-9 guys that you know are going to be in the lineup almost every single day. And I think that's a big part of why this offense faltered at times. And I think that's the biggest thing to focus on with the Red Sox offense going into 2024. And I think whether or not you bring back Justin Turner, Adam Duvall, whether or not you trade Luis Urias, Alex Verdugo, it's going to have a big role in accomplishing that task. And to me, that's by far and away the biggest portion of the Red Sox offense. To focus on broader picture-wise, now that you are eliminated from the postseason, it's time to get into your war room and figure out what you're going to do this offseason. Defensively, obviously, you have some work to do as well, of course, right? This is one of the historically worst since the StatCast era. I think it's officially now the worst in the StatCast era. Could be wrong, though. It might be a little bit better with Trevor Story on the field. But either way, that's going to need to improve in 2024, right? And I think we've talked about this before, but I think genuinely this year will be an outlier in terms of how bad it was defensively. Tristan Casas will be better next year. You're starting to see the beginnings of that before he went down in 2023. Massa will never be a good left fielder, but I don't think he's going to be metrically as bad as he was this year. I think he was adjusting to everything around Major League Baseball, and it's a little bit difficult, right, to come into this league and have to play with a monster 10 feet behind you. That's a little bit of an adjustment, so I think he'll be better next year. I think having Trevor Story in an everyday role will make this team much better, so naturally, I think we're going to see a lot better defense from the Red Sox in 2024, but that can't be oh, we think this is going to happen, right? It needs to be yes, we've made the improvements. Yes, we know that these guys are going to be better. Yes, we've done everything we possibly could. And yes, we know this Red Sox defense is going to be better than 2023. And that needs to be what happens this offseason. I think the biggest one to me is that you need to make sure that Rafael Devers comes into 2024 better than he was in 2023. I'm not saying he needs to be a great defensive third baseman. He just needs to be better than he was in 2023. And he could absolutely do that. For those of you who have been doubting Rafael Devers, he can do that. We've seen that before. He was pretty decent in 2022. He needs to get back to that and away from what we saw in 2023. But outside of that, right, the addition of Trevor Story for a full year, some of these prospects coming up that are going to be joining the team in 2024 and 2025 should make this team naturally better defensively. But either way, you can't come into 2024 with question marks on defense. You need to be able to know exactly what you're going to be getting from each guy, right? You need to know what you're getting from Devers, Massa, whoever's in center field, whoever's in right field, whoever's at second base, Story, and Tristan Casas. There needs to be some stability there defensively. And I think the two biggest keys here are stability and consistency going into 2024. As for the pitching, oh boy, right? This is an absolute mess right now. This is by far and away the biggest focus of the Red Sox going into 2024. I think going into 2024, the Red Sox need to get younger pitching-wise, right? You came into 2023 with Kluber, Paxton, and Sale. Now, one of those guys on their own is fine, right? Because at the end of the day, you need veteran leadership, and those guys are proven legitimate contenders in Major League Baseball. But all three of them together led to a really high ceiling, but an extremely low floor. And you saw bits and pieces of both of those, the ceiling and the floor this year, but it definitely leaned more towards the floor. And obviously, when you're older, you also have an increased potential for injury. You also have an increased potential for stamina loss, right? There are a lot of different factors here. So if the Red Sox can get younger pitching and experienced younger pitching, guys who are really, really good, just a little bit younger, this rotation could get a whole lot better. I think on top of that too, you also need to get more talented, right? I talked about the really really high ceiling, but you were also relying on an aging Kluber, an aging Paxton, an aging Sale to get you there. Your ceiling needs to be the same height, but it needs to be more attainable with younger, more talented pitching. The other side of what the Red Sox need to do looking into 2024 is looking at figuring out consistent roles. You need to stabilize this rotation. This year you had a ton of different guys in a ton of different spots pitching wise, right? And I think going into 2024, you need to stabilize it a bit. You need to figure out what you're going to do with Cutter, Houck, Pivetta, and Whitlock. One of those four guys needs to be in the rotation. One of those four guys need to be in the bullpen, right? You need to figure out defined roles. I think having guys go back and forth led to some of these inconsistencies in the 2023 rotation. Now, a large part of that had to do with injuries, right? The part that you can control, the part that says, yeah, we are definitely making Garrett Whitlock a reliever, and we're definitely making Tanner Houck a starter, needs to get done at some point this offseason, because I think it'll really help this team get better pitching wise going forward. And I think that's another huge factor as well. So when you're looking at the starting rotation for the Red Sox, this is clearly the biggest area of need. I think all of you guys will agree, and probably should agree, that going into the 2024 offseason, 90% of the Red Sox focus should be strictly on improving this pitching staff, specifically this rotation, right? In my opinion, you should get younger, you should get more talented, and you should get defined roles going into 2024 to really make that a possibility. But again, this is the big one, right? This is the one everyone's been talking about. This is the one everyone will be talking about going into 2024. Now, as for the bullpen, there's really not a ton of work to do, right? Because when you're looking at the structure of this bullpen, you've got Kenley Jansen, who's going to be with this team for another year. And I know some of you guys don't love Kenley, but he had an 87.9% success rate this year. That is plenty acceptable for a closer, for a really good closer, an aging closer. My only fear with Kenley is health. Hopefully he can make it through next season a little bit more healthy. But on top of that too, you've also got Chris Martin, who's right now like the third best reliever in Major League Baseball. In my opinion, the best reliever in Major League Baseball. He's locked in for another year. Winkowski developed really well this year. You've got guys who are going to be in this bullpen with defined roles like Whitlock, like Pivetta. In my opinion, this bullpen looks really good. What you need to do to this bullpen going forward, and what we saw in this series, was you need to raise the ceiling of these sort of under the radar guys, right? The middle inning relievers, the waiver pickups, the guys who are going to be playing in these games when your big guns can or your big guns shouldn't be in there, right? Those are the guys, in my opinion, you can improve on a little bit, right? I mean, you came into this year knowing Brazier and knowing Ort weren't going to do well on this team. You still rolled them out anyways. That can't happen in 2024. Now, I'm not saying stop picking up people on waivers, because that's where you find a lot of these guys, right? That's where you find the Brennan Bernardinos. That's where you find the John Schreibers. That's where you find a lot of these talented relievers, and that's the mark of a really great team, is being able to pick up these guys that other teams can't figure out and figure them out, right? That's the mark of a really great team, and so the Red Sox need to keep doing that. They just need to keep doing it successfully. But I think raising the ceiling of the middle relief, of those sort of mop-up role guys, would make this bullpen a whole lot better. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to when we're talking about the bullpen for the Boston Red Sox, you saw it in this series, you've seen it over the last month and a half, it's just simply wearing them down, right? You can't wear them down as much as what we saw in 2023. I mean, the Red Sox rotation isn't even averaging 5 innings per start. That's a ton of innings the Red Sox bullpen needs to eat up if you extrapolate that out to 162 games. If the starting pitching and the defense get better, naturally the Red Sox bullpen will get better. They'll be better utilized, and they'll be more available in times where you need them available. And so to me, the biggest thing you need for the bullpen going into 2024 is to give them a bit more wiggle room. And I think that, again, that is possible when you take a look at this rotation. But obviously, when we're talking about what next for the Red Sox, there is nothing that can be done until the Red Sox get someone to steer this ship, right? You simply can't do anything. Now, MLB free agency opens up technically the day after the World Series ends, but MLB free agents can't really sign with teams until 5 days after that. So really, the free agent market opens up 6 days after the World Series. Now, the big question here is, what are the Red Sox going to be doing at that time, right? In my opinion, you need to have someone in place at that time so you're not a step behind everyone else. And none of this can get done if you don't have anyone manning this ship. So obviously that is priority number one, and that's what we are going to be focusing on until they actually get someone in here. But until then, yeah, it sucks, right? It sucks that this series sucked. It sucks that for the second year in a row, the Red Sox have been eliminated from postseason contention with a pretty decent amount of games left this year. Realistically, they have been completely wiped out of this race for a very long time, but it still sucks to see that sort of pop up on your timeline. The mathematical elimination always hurts to see, but it does give you time and a little bit of wiggle room here to figure out what your next steps are. And if you're the Boston Red Sox, you got to get going, and you got to get going now. But that's just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below. Now that the Red Sox have been mathematically eliminated, what are you thinking? What do you think of the next steps for the Red Sox, both before they hit free agency in the trade market and during the free agency and trade market? Let me know all your thoughts on what's next for the Boston Red Sox in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.